Hi, I'm Martin Crowther and I run hands-on learning sessions here at Dover Museum. Today we're going to be looking at some of the activities that we run with children inspired by Dover Museum's most impressive artefact, the Dover Bronze Age boat. The Dover Bronze Age boat is over 3,000 years old. It was built at the same time that the pyramids were being constructed in Egypt. It almost certainly carried cargoes across the channel, perhaps bronze, foodstuffs, even live animals. It was made here, probably in Dover, by Bronze Age people living locally, and almost certainly children would have been involved in its construction. Here are my top tips for investigating artefacts. Start with the object as a mystery artefact, and with the children as history detectives. Spend a little bit of time with the children, asking them, how do we know about history and things from the past? See if they can maybe come up with 5 different kinds of historical evidence, and maybe even whether they're primary or secondary kinds of evidence. It's a really nice starting point. And then we need to be able to learn some top tips to actually investigate an object. I always start a session with children asking how we handle old objects, and it's something that can be quite worrying for museum curators as well as teachers. And it's actually really simple, and the children always come up with the answers. And it is really always to hold the object very carefully underneath in 2 hands. If they're sat on the floor, to hold it very close to the floor so that if it does drop, it doesn't get too badly damaged. And when passing it around, to make sure that the next person has their 2 hands ready to receive it. And it really is that simple. The other thing, of course, is to make sure you've got clean hands. So we always wash our hands before we handle old objects. Okay, let's investigate an artefact. Let's start with this wonderful object here. What I like to think about and ask the children when we're investigating objects is think of as many questions as you can about what the object is. So maybe, is it heavy or is it light? Is it hard or is it soft? Is it rough or is it smooth? What colour would you use to describe it? Maybe there are some clues on it. There might be a picture or some carving or maybe even some letters. Perhaps not in this case. Think about all these different things and then maybe think about what it might be and who might have used it. One fun game we can play with children is called In the Bag. Here we have a feely bag. You can actually just use a very cheap PE kit bag for this. And the idea is that there's a hidden object inside the bag, and if you ask one child to describe what they think it feels like. Now, they're not allowed to say what they think it is. They need to describe its shape, its texture, its weight. So this one I would say it's quite small, it's very heavy, it's cold to the touch, and it's actually hollow, and it appears to have one quite sharp edge. It also appears to be broken. There's a very rough little bit on the side. And then maybe some of the children can have a guess at what they think the object might be. And then, of course, we have the great reveal where we put our hand inside and we pull it out to see what it is. Okay, here we have 2 artefacts. They are actually Bronze Age axes, although one is actually a real Bronze Age axe over 3,000 years old, and the other is a modern replica. So one nice activity with the children is to ask them maybe, how can you tell if something is old? And they'll come with all sorts of ideas, maybe that it's broken, or that it's damaged, or that it's dusty or dirty. So we can actually have a lovely activity here where we're sort of comparing these, maybe handing them around. And yes, we can see that this object here, this is the real object, and this is a modern replica. And it's always really good as well to explain when something is a replica and what that is, and why we use those in museums. And also, of course, really important to say which is the real thing and why it's so special. Here's a good activity for involving all children in a group, and it's called One More Thing. And what we do here is we go around the circle, adding one more descriptive thing about the object. So with this one, the first person might say it's round. The second one may say it's made of clay. And what we do is the next person has to add all the things together in sequence that have been said before. So it's round, it's made of clay, it's got beautiful zigzag markings. It's round, it's made of clay, it's got beautiful zigzag markings, and it's a lovely brown colour. It's round, it's made of clay, it's got beautiful zigzag markings, it's a lovely brown colour, and it appears to have been burnt. You get the idea. And it's actually quite good fun, and everyone gets involved. One more thing. One activity I do is sit the children around in small groups, and each group will have an object and they rotate round between them. And they just have 3 simple questions. And the questions are, what is it made out of? Who might have used it? And when do you think it comes from? And what we do is the children pass the object round, they investigate it with a helper and come up with all sorts of ideas. We don't actually tell them what it is until right at the end, once they've handled all the objects. And then we have a presentation where the children report back on their ideas, and other groups can interject and say, well, I think it's this because, or disagree with what they say. And then we have the big reveal to actually tell them what it is. But only really through the children answering lots of questions so that they come up with the answer themselves. This, by the way, is a wonderful replica object. It gets so many wonderful ideas about what it is. Maybe worn over the shoulder as a sash. Maybe it was used on the head as a kind of scarf. It is actually a Bronze Age miniskirt for use in the summer. Who would have believed that in the Bronze Age they had miniskirts? One of the wonderful activities we developed at Dover Museum for special needs audiences is some sensory storytelling. And it all revolves around rhyme, rhythm, repetition and gesture. It's something that is wonderful for all sorts of different audiences, primary children, but also children with profound and multiple learning disabilities. We developed a very open story where the children are participants and use all kinds of sensory props and elements. So for example, we can talk about the Bronze Age village and the animals that they kept and introduce the sounds of the different animals. We can talk about how the people in the Bronze Age village had to go into the forest and chop down a tree. In fact, chop down many trees to make the Dover Bronze Age boat. And we can then talk about how they launched it and went on a voyage across the channel and introduced the waves and the sounds of the sea as well. So for example, we have this wonderful object here, which is the sound of the rain. You can think of rain and maybe that developing into a storm at sea, which the boat has to go through. And that might include the sound of thunder. And of course we hope that the boat will come safely back to shore with its cargo. We've got lots more information about this which we can share with you at Dover Museum.